Now, Eyewitness Sports.
Welcome to the latest episode of WPRI OOT with Mark Dondero. I'm Yianni. We're talking NFL, World Series, NBA, college basketball, hockey. Big episode today. Let's start with that big Bills-Patriots game on Sunday. You were at Gillette today. How was the vibe there? The question I start with is, are you sensing the Pats are worried about the Bills? Are the Bills a legitimate contender?
You know, I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling on this one just because we've seen Rex Ryan in the past, without a great quarterback, cultivate a team that became some kind of a contender, namely those first two teams with the Jets. But are the Bills a contender? A contender for what? Could they make the playoffs? They can make the playoffs. They are absolutely not a Super Bowl contender.
Right.
So, yeah, I'll say they're a playoff team potentially. I'm not going any further than that, and I think they're going to get drubbed this weekend, and I think there's really, a chance that they could get exposed, and that could have a lasting effect, a negative lasting effect on the Bills going forward.
The Bills are not a legitimate contender. I think something we've realized from Bills all these years, and especially some Rex Ryan coach teams, is that in the end they turn out to be frauds, much like the Houston Texans, who are on national TV every week, and it's like, when was the last time Houston won a big game? Buffalo has some nice pieces. As we'll get into this in a bit, I think they lose handily to the Patriots this week. But they're 4-3. They're 4-2, right? Last week, and they lose to Miami. Like, how did they lose that game at that point? So I think Rex Ryan's a good rah-rah guy, and he gets his guys up. But he doesn't have that continuity, a lot of peaks and valleys throughout the year. I don't think the Bills are going to keep it up. You need 10 wins to make the playoffs nowadays, if not 11. They're certainly not winning the AFC East over the Patriots. So I think in the last few weeks they'll be in the discussion for the playoffs, but I do not think they'll break that long playoff drought.
We're not predicting the Bills' season here, but I would take the Raiders, the Chiefs, and any.
I love that the Raiders are relevant. Isn't that great?
I mean, sure.
I like teams that we haven't seen be good for 15 years.
Yeah, no, it's nice to see a different guy come to the party, but. Yeah, I think the AFC West will be, if we're talking about playoff teams, more likely to get somebody else in than the Buffalo Bills. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, predict Sunday's game, Patriots at Bills.
All right, so when was the last time the Pats lost 2 games to one team in the same year? I think they are using that last game, which had such a weird vibe to it. I think you were there. Last minute, Jacoby Brissett starting. They had the little pre-game scuffle. And then it was almost like the Patriots were caught off guard that Garoppolo wasn't playing, and they had the most watered-down, basic game plan. And it was one of those annoying kind of throwaway games that like we saw late last year with the Jets or Dolphins. So I think it's all hands on deck this week. Obviously, Brady's back. Bills and Rex Ryan, they like to yap, so there's a little extra incentive. And I don't think, Mark, the Pats offense right now is so good. I mean, without the drops last week with Hogan and Edelman and a couple fumbles, they could have laid 40 on Pittsburgh. Tom Brady and the rest of the QB core hasn't thrown an interception all season, and I think they'll turn over Buffalo once or twice. I think Taylor maybe throws an INT. So I am saying Patriots 31, Buffalo 21.
The first thought I have is, well, let me start here. The skirmish that you brought up prior to the last game. I'm going to talk about what I heard after that game when people were emotional and when they were real. I felt like they were real after the game. Some of the guys that didn't hear about the skirmish, they didn't like it. Yeah. And I think they're going to remember that. Now, nobody wanted to talk about that today. Nobody admitted that today. But I think that's going to play a factor in this game on Sunday, that they remember what the Bills did to them.
Right.
And that's going to be a factor. I'm going to say the Patriots win the game 35 to 35-20.
All right.
I think it's a comfortable win. And it's just a matter of going up there with, they didn't have Tom Brady the last time. And they can't, this is a team that historically, and just to answer your first question, it has been 15 years, I believe, don't quote me, but I think it's 15 years since they were swept by a divisional foe.
So what, 0-1?
Maybe the 0-1 season.
Who was good in the division then? Miami?
Well, it wasn't the Colts. They beat the Colts. Could have been Miami. Got them
saying
twice.
Regular season and playoffs?
I'm saying they lost both games during the regular season to a divisional opponent.
So it had to be a divisional opponent.
Yeah, swept. And I think it's been 15 years. It doesn't happen often.
I will say this. It's going to be cool, good vibe in Buffalo. Their fans always bring it. They get, pretty lubed up. So I think it's going to be a good vibe. I'm excited for this
We'll
one.
see.
All right, let's switch gears. NBA underway. We saw games tip off last night. The Celtics begin their season tonight against the Brooklyn Nets because everything with the Celtics revolves around the Brooklyn Nets. All right, a lot of upside coming off a good season last year. They get Al Horford. They have Jaylen Brown, number 3 pick. A lot of people picking the Celtics to go far. What is your prediction for how far they'll go this year?
Here's what I'm going to do with the Celtics this year, and I do this a lot. I think that it's a better move to kind of take the up-and-coming team than the team that gets all these veterans and puts these pieces together that you think is going to be good, but they don't end up really good. We know in football that's the case. But I'm going to go that way in basketball, and I'm going to say the Celtics, you ready? They make the Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics. They win, what is that, 2 playoff series to get there. They make the finals. Obviously, they don't win the finals. They don't come close to the finals. And I think it could be akin to the year, I think it was 2002, when the Celtics made the Eastern Conference Finals against the Nets. You knew they had no chance to win, but they made it, and it was a fun ride.
I agree. I think they go Eastern Conference Finals. I think they win 55 regular season games. The reason they're going to do well is because Brad Stevens has these guys play hard every night. So some of these veteran-laden teams with superstars, they take nights off in February. I don't think you're going to see that from the Celtics. I think Horford's going to be good. They have a deep, deep bench. I think they're going to miss Evan Turner a little bit, but I like this team, and the product of the Eastern Conference not being so great is why they get to the Eastern Conference Finals. So let's say they get the 2 or 3 seed, they have to play like an Indiana or someone, and then I think they beat Toronto in the Eastern Conference semis. So like you said, they get there, they get crushed by Cleveland in 5 games, but they get there. So it makes it a meaningful season to watch. I remember the early 2000s. It was great to have meaningful basketball, and it's similar to nowadays where it's been a few years since they've been good. So that'll be interesting in May and June. But I think they get to the 55 wins, East Finals, lose to Cleveland.
And, of course, in the East, it's about Chicago, the Knicks now, and obviously the Raptors and the Pacers. I do not think the Bulls, they look great on paper. It's fun and exciting, but Dwayne Wade, he's just older now.
I'm not
and
sold
Rondo.
on the Bulls.
No, and the Pacers.
And the Knicks, they have obviously Porzingis and Melo. Who else do they bring in? Oh, Rose.
Joakim Noah. So it's not on paper. But again, these are older guys, injured guys. I'm not buying that. I'm taking the younger Celtics, like you said, the hungry Celtics, and we'll see where they can ascend to. As far as the NBA Finals, I do not think they get to the NBA Finals. They're still a few years away in my mind. Who is going to go to the NBA Finals, Yianni?
I'm going to choose the 2 teams everyone chooses, Golden State and Cleveland, a rematch of last year's. I will say this. Last night, the Spurs going to Golden State's building and crushing them. That was vintage San Antonio. I loved every second of that. Without Tim Duncan. Popovich getting his guys ready there. Clearly the 2 best teams. Everyone on Twitter is overreacting. Golden State, how are they going to share the ball? Like, who takes the last shot? They'll figure it out. Miami had some rocky times with Wade and Bosh and LeBron early on. They'll figure things out. They're going to win 65 games. And Cleveland, I think now that LeBron came back to Cleveland, won that, accomplished what he intended to do, it's almost like he's playing with house money. And I feel like the pressure's on. There's so much scrutiny for LeBron for all these years. He did his thing in Miami, comes to Cleveland, wins one. So I think they're going to be the team to beat. It's going to be Cleveland and Golden State. And I guess I'll pick the Warriors to win that series.
Remind me again how the RIIL does its Super Bowl. There's like Super Bowl A and Super Bowl B.
Yes, the consolation of the semifinals then becomes essentially a Super Bowl. It's silly.
That's what the NBA needs to do because the Warriors and the Cavs, barring a LeBron James injury or 2 guys getting hurt in my mind on Golden State.
Spurs going nuts.
I guess. It's going to be the Warriors and the Cavs. The Warriors are going to figure it out. You have 4 of the best players in the league on the same team. They'll figure it out. Those teams that get put together like that, they might not always win the championship, but they always make the finals. Always.
Yes.
They are making the finals. So it will be the Warriors and the Cavs in the finals. And I'll say the Cavs beat the Warriors. Do I really believe? I'm not going to say that. Never mind. I don't believe that. The Warriors are going to win the finals. I think they'll figure it out. They got too many good players. The Warriors are going to win the NBA
By the way,
finals.
LeBron's consecutive final streak is absurd.
It is absurd.
What is it? 4th Miami, 2 with Cleveland, 6 straight finals.
And you know what I thought of today, to that point? The only time that he was really challenged in the East was against the Boston Celtics. Every other time. There's never been another team that challenged LeBron in the East. He's gone to the finals essentially every year since the Big Three split up. Garnett, Pierce.
I guess Detroit early on in his Cleveland. So like 06, he got there in 07.
Okay.
But I would agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, there's that famous shot of him ripping his jersey off after the Celtics.
I'm just saying,
his Cleveland.
Yes, I guess you could say Detroit early on, but I'm talking about when LeBron was really MVP LeBron.
Yeah, and that's part of the issue. He probably wants an East rival. You know what I mean?
He won last year without one. So,
all right, let's switch gears to hockey.
The
what an embarrassment for the Bruins last night, losing 5-0. Tuukka Rask is hurt. The backup, how do you pronounce it? Hudobin?
I think it's Anton Hudobin.
Hudobin, but it's spelled differently.
Yeah.
Whenever I see his name in the prompter, I'm like immediately freaked out.
Okay.
I mispronounce it. Malcolm Subban came up from Providence last night. He was a nightmare. So Zane McIntyre in net tonight. Sounds like a boy band name. What do you make of the Bruins goaltending situation?
It's tough. It's not, doesn't make me feel good. I think it has the potential to be worse than the Red Sox pitching in 2016. Now, I know they had some moments, but in big moments, they did nothing.
Right.
And it was their Achilles heel. I think the Bruins and their goaltending have a lot to be desired, and yes, I think that will be their Achilles heel. And we're waiting for Tuukka Rask to come back.
When is he coming back?
It's day to day. They think, or we speculate, that it's a hamstring injury.
See, the hockey injury,
lower body,
upper body, it's so annoying. You don't know
Here's the
anything.
problem, though. Even when Tuukka Rask is fully healthy, I don't have a lot of faith in Tuukka Rask. He
wasn't great last year.
He took them to one Stanley Cup final, couldn't get it done. Has never really stood on his head for a full playoff situation. We saw him give, and I know we're going back, but we saw him. He did give up a 3-0 lead, 2010 to the Flyers. No goalie should have that on their resume anywhere. And and then you listen. You get sick, it happens, but he missed last year the one game to get them into the postseason. He was sick and missed the game. It happens, but that doesn't put a lot of faith.
But hockey players are the toughest guys, right?
It doesn't put a lot of faith in Tuukka Rask for me. So I need to see more from him. And Malcolm Subban, here's my question. Who's playing goalie for Providence?
He was pulled in 2 of his Bruins games and then pulled last night.
Well, and not only
obviously
that,
they're not confident when they pull him up.
McIntyre is going up. Subban's up. Dubovik, whatever his name is hurt.
Well,
Rask is hurt.
You practiced with Bruins last year. You may have to get out there. Let me say this about Subban. He was a first-round pick.
First-round pick.
He has not lived up to that billing. That is a bad selection. And I was listening on the radio. Someone made this point today. Why are they picking Subban in the first round when Tuukka Rask was 25 at the time and had just taken over for Tim Thomas?
Assets. Who the heck knows?
So, I mean, listen, Subban got a puck to his neck last year. Maybe he's a little,
No, he was
squirmy,
awful before that.
Squirmy regarding that, but I think he's underachieved. And is he one of those guys that it just clicks one day and he's going to get it? Or is he not good? He just isn't good.
I mean, they rave, the scouts, about his athleticism, his conditioning.
There were some goals
but he's
last
averaging
night that
about
were bad.
4.5 goals per game.
There were some goals that were bad last night.
4.5 per game. He has been brutal, especially on the NHL level. Is he a bust? Well, he's trending that way. I don't know what to make of him long term, but I don't like the prospect.
The goaltending isn't great, but hopefully your boy Tuukka gets back in.
This is what defense, the foundation of defense in hockey, the goalie. If the goalie can't play, especially
difference between the Bruins and Patriots. Patriots third stringer, they get by. Bruins third stringer, can't get by.
Not even close.
All right, let's talk some baseball.
Next topic here is the World Series, and obviously, a ton of eyeballs on this thing. Cubs, Indians.
Fox Providence.
That's correct. They moved it up on, well, don't worry, we don't know when you're watching this. Here is the question. Who should we be rooting for, and who are you rooting for?
From Saturday, I was all in on the Cubs. Winning at Wrigley, I was sitting there watching on my couch. This is great. Not since 1908 have they won it. I have a good buddy of mine from college. He's a big Cubs fan. I was feeling it, They're the lovable losers. They haven't even gotten there since
1945.
45.
Yeah.
That's absurd. That's remarkable losing. I think of the 4 major league, they have the longest drought. So I was always saying Cubs, and I like Lester as a player. I think he got hosed and lowballed on the Red Sox offer. I generally like Theo. I like David Ross. But watching last night with the Indians winning Game 1, I'm like, I appreciate Tito with just 3 live arms in his starting rotation, getting through the Red Sox, Jays, and now taking Game 1. In Cleveland, while they haven't won since 1946 or whatever it is, they're as historically bad in terms of not hoisting up championships. They got there in the 90s. So, I kind of caught myself rooting for the Indians last night, and I was like, what am I doing? I should be rooting for the Cubs. I should identify with the long-tortured fan base that we both were as Red Sox fans prior to 2004. So at the end of the day, I think if it's a Game 7, I'm going to root for the Cubs. But I've been having mixed feelings. I felt like I was, kind of cheating on my girlfriend there.
We were definitely, I think, both in the same boat last night. I'm rooting for a long series.
Okay.
You did kind of get the feeling like you were eyeing a different, something else.
To be clear, we're both happily married.
Correct. But you're right. This wasn't supposed to be the way the Cubs made the World Series. It wasn't supposed to be like this. They were supposed to go up against an evil empire, a power, a team that bathes in championship hardware, and that has not been the case with the Indians on the other side, because they're, as you said, they haven't won it. They've been 1948. They've had heartbreak in the World Series. And now Tito Francona, who was dismissed from Boston unceremoniously, they had all these injuries. They've been the underdog. Nobody believed in them. And you kind of find yourself wanting to root for that. But this is the Cubs. They haven't won. Now, we get into the debate about Chicago. Remember, the Blackhawks have dominated. Bulls in the 90s. It's not like in the White Sox less than 12 years ago. It's not like they haven't had championships. Cleveland has the one from June, the Cavs.
So it'd be cool if they got 2 in the same year.
It would be cool. So you're right. It does feel
it's an identity crisis, because you want the Cubs to be the underdog, but it's actually the Indians who are the underdogs. So because the Cubs won 103 games.
It's messing with me.
It is messing with me.
And I think you put it well. At the end of the day, I will turn back to the Cubs, but I'm definitely I was rooting for the Indians last night. It'll be the Cubs tonight. And then we root for a long series and we'll see where we end up.
All right, last question, college basketball. URI is a top 25 team. They start their season coming up here in a couple weeks for the first time since 1999 when Lamar Odom was on the team. Just from a branding, marketing, visibility, besides inside the lines, how big is a top 25 ranking for URI?
For URI, it's huge. You want to be in the top 25. You want to have recruits see your name in the polls, URI. Now, if you're Duke, your goals are higher than that. You live in the top 25. You sleep in the top 25. You don't need to be in there. Recruits know it doesn't matter. It's about national championships. For URI, it's not about national championships.